If you're still running the classic testing and scaling campaign after the Meta new Andromeda algorithm, bad news for you, your ROAS might go down soon, if most probably is not already down. And we have tested a lot of different strategies across all our e-commerce clients so far, and we found the best strategy that is basically helping us to improve our ROAS by between 23 and 41%. And in this video I'm going to show you guys exactly what is this strategy. So what is the new winning meta account structure, which is basically based on what Andromeda algorithm wants you to do to maximize the performance. I'm going to show you some tests and differences, some before and after in terms of ROAS that we have generated with this new strategy. I will also go through the exact way that this new algorithm works and why you should keep this into consideration when you build the ad structure and strategy overall for your e-commerce brand right now. Okay, let's jump on my screen. So this is the newest Facebook ad strategy that is working post Andromeda algorithm that we use, of course, to help our clients to scale with a very high return on the ad spend. So as you can see, this is literally just the before and after. This is the performance of this account on July before we applied the new Andromeda strategy, and this was the after. So as you can see, the overall return on ad spend increased by 23%. We went from 3.83 to 4.71, and on some campaign like this one specifically, we went from a 4.30 return on ad spend to a 6.08 return on the ad spend. And this one in red again is the old ad strategy that is not working anymore, and this one is the new ad strategy that is working especially well nowadays. So let me actually explain what the new Meta Andromeda algorithm is. So this new algorithm basically is going to maximize the target efficiency, so the way that you target your audience towards content. And so what you basically need to do, basically like the overall outcome of this is that Meta is now improving the targeting, and even more of your targeting is done through creatives right now. So audience and segments and lookalike and all these things will matter less and less with time, and each of your single creative will target different audiences. So what is the main thing to prioritize here, as you can see, is the creative diversification. Creative diversification means how diverse are your creatives, and diverse, I don't mean changing the background or just a simple thing like the color of the CTA. And they need to be actually diverse in terms of angle, concept and everything. And this is basically how it works. You see, this is directly from Meta, guys. As you can see, Meta takes all your ad creatives, reorganize them into different buckets of audiences and then sub audiences, and then it will show the related ads to the audience where this ad is most relevant for. Here, this is like a summary of how you should adapt your strategy based on this new algorithm. So basically, you don't need to split creatives by angle or messages anymore into separate ad sets. So your goal overall now is to decrease the number of ad sets inside your campaign and maximize the number of ads inside each single ad set. So what is working right now is basically not splitting anymore the ad creatives by different angles, putting like 6, 7, 8 different variations of ads inside one ad set and then test another angle in one different ad set. But right now what you can do is basically just put all the creatives inside one ad set. You can be like 15, 20, 30, 40 different creatives, even 50 maximum creatives inside one ad set, and increase the budget within that single ad set, and create new ad set when you have reached the maximum capacity. Or when I suggest to do it is basically when the learning of the ad set is maximized. That means that it's not learning limited anymore, so the ad set is performing well with a good return on ad spend. So in this case you don't want to touch the overall ad set, and this is when we basically need to create a new ad set with new creatives inside. As you can see, what Meta says itself is that you can basically put different angles and messages into the same campaign or ad set, ideal Advantage Plus of course, and let the system optimize. So what is the test, the results from the test that we got? So as you can see, this is the first one, and look here, this is June 1st until 30th of June. We got a 4.68 return on the ad spend on this account, and as you can see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different ads. What we did, we basically just increased the number of ads within the same ad set rather than splitting into a new ad set, and then the ROAS, sorry, this is still July, so it's June and July, nothing happened, same number of ads within the same ad set. And then we have increased the number of ads to 11, from 7 to 11 in August, and the return on ad spend went to 6.08. And what a lot of people were doing right now is just like creating a new ad set and everything, so it get optimized again. But the thing is that the ad set already has a lot of data, and so what you can do when you input new ads within the same ad set, you're going to increase the number of success rate within that specific creative, because you're putting those creatives inside an ad set that already has a lot of data acquired. Now the thing is that the ads, like our goal to stabilize the performance of the ad account is to make sure that we have as many ad sets as possible outside from the learning phase, and the learning phase itself happens within the ad set level. So if you're splitting by different ad sets, even if you have a CBO, it's going to be difficult for each single ad set to collect 50, let's say, purchases within a week. And so what you want to do, you want to make sure that they are all stacked within one single ad set. And there is also another example here, another different account. And as you can see, this return, we had 3 different creatives inside this ad set with a 4.24 return on the ad spend in between June and July, so 2 different months. And then what we did, we had just added new creatives inside, and as you can see, we went to a 5.43 return on the ad spend, and in total we had 13 creatives. So we added 10 new creatives inside the same ad set. Now, when you should do this and when you should not do this. So as explained before, you should avoid doing this when you have already an ad set with 20, 30, 40 different creatives inside, and the ad set has already exited the learning phase. You have another batch of 10, 20, 30 different creatives. Rather than putting these creatives inside an existing ad set, what you can do is just use another ad set. Since you have 30, 20 creatives, you can put all these creatives inside the new ad set. And the goal, your overall goal, is to minimize the number of ad sets and to maximize the number of ads within each single ad set. So this is going to be your goal. The campaign structure, so that is working right now, as you can probably understand, is basically just having one campaign, and in this campaign we have one or more ad set within a CBO setup. And the number of ad sets is basically minimized, so you want to have as minimum ad sets as possible and maximize the number of creatives. This is the campaign structure, and this is very important, because what you want to do here, what you can read here, we do not exclude audiences, we do not exclude existing customers, but in order for this to work, you must create creatives for different user awareness stages, because if you only create creatives for the bottom of funnel awareness stage, then your ads will keep targeting the same people over and over again. So the strategy only works if you do 2 things. The first one is this one that I just mentioned, and the second thing that you have to do is basically make sure that you are putting all your audiences here, because what Meta does now, basically Meta targets different people based also on what you need. Like Meta knows that you want to grow the business. In order to grow the business, Meta knows that it cannot spend just on existing customers to give you the best return on ad spend. So Meta nowadays, especially with new Andromeda, they knows that you need to have enough top of funnel audience and traffic that can sustain the middle and bottom of funnel. And so what you need to do is let Meta understand what these middle and bottom of funnel are in terms of audiences. So Meta knows that it doesn't have to push a lot of budget towards these creatives, towards these audiences. So if you don't do this, so basically, if you don't add your website visitors, add to cart, checkout initiated, excluding the purchases into the engaged audience, as well as the Klaviyo list of all the contacts, excluding the existing customers, into the engaged audience, Meta is going to basically probably push all your budget over this audience, because Meta doesn't know that this audience is an engaged audience. So you must do it. And then You should do the same for existing customers. In this case, what you want to have is the pixel data, purchases last 180 days, and the email list in sync with Klaviyo or any other tool you're using. You want to filter by all customers. So a list of people in Klaviyo that have made at least one purchase from your website. So all your existing customers, basically. Make sure this is a dynamic list, and also this is a dynamic list, because if it's not a dynamic list, it's not gonna be updated, and it's not gonna keep, you know, the performance. And then finally, the ad set level, actually very, very broad, no custom exclusion and everything. Now, a lot of people might be saying, oh, Meta is gonna spend for sure the budget to existing customers and everything, but in reality, it's not true, and I'm gonna explain with this example here below. But before going towards that example here, I wanna, you know, just finalize the ad structure that you should use. So all the other things right now becomes optional, because Meta automatically do the retargeting and the retention within the prospecting CBO. So the prospecting CBO doesn't even become a prospecting CBO, it becomes a single campaign, like a full funnel CBO, where Meta spend budget towards new customers, engaged audience, and existing customers, right? So you might need to use some retargeting campaign or some retention campaign if you run specific brands just in specific cases. So it needs to be, you know, you kind of need to understand the different situation where and when you should use it. But what you want to do is just keep it very simple: manual targeting for the retargeting manual campaign, website visitors, Facebook engagers, Klaviyo audience all inside. Exclude existing customers because you are retargeting only everyone that didn't buy anything, and broad placement, one ad set, 15 to 50 ads per ad set, and ideally you want to have one single ad set here as well. And the retention campaign, manual targeting, existing customers only, use pixel plus Klaviyo data, broad placement, one ad set, 15 to 50 ads within the single ads. Why? Because since these audiences are very small, the frequency will be very high, and so you need to make sure that you have enough content that keeps, you know, retargeting the same people, just to avoid the same audience see the same content over and over again. Otherwise they will start reporting you, and if they report you, it's gonna be a huge problem, because your CPM will go very high, and the only way to actually see this is you basically need to have a Meta representative and speak directly with them, because they can only see it. Another thing that you need to do is when you have promo campaign. So let's say you have like a Black Friday campaign. Cool. So in this Black Friday campaign, what you have to do, you still need to keep your overall campaign setup active. So one campaign CBO per single product, evergreen, and then you have an additional campaign where it's going to be a broad setup similar to this one. And then what you can have is a retargeting campaign, website visitor, and IG engagement only if there is a specific promo. So like in this case for Black Friday, you don't need to exclude audiences in here, and you don't need to exclude audiences in here. So we keep the broad open, the retargeting open, and the retention open as well. I mean, the retargeting, you still need to target website visitors, engagers, and Klaviyo audiences, but you don't have to exclude any existing customers. As well as in the retention, you don't have to exclude existing customers. Why? Because this one, this campaign here, so you might be like, okay, but this audience then is going to target the same people that we target here. In reality, this is not going to happen. Why? Because since you have this campaign already here, then Meta is going to push the broad more towards new audiences compared to this one. And this one is probably going to perform very well for just like a couple of days, or maybe like towards the end of the campaign. That's why usually this one we launch it, then we keep it active for like 3, 4, 5 days at the beginning of the campaign. Then the performance will drop, and then we're gonna turn everything off and keep only the broad active. This is not mandatory. I would extend the optional even to the retargeting part, because the broad, if you only keep the broad, is also good, because the broad will also be able to retarget the engaged and retention. If you don't put these two, like the broad itself will push more budget towards this, especially during the beginning of the campaign. And this is actually good from one side. Why? Because when you launch the campaign, Meta will get a lot of data, and we'll see probably a lot of purchases coming from existing audiences, existing customers, or like all the retargeting audiences. And so the optimization of that specific campaign, it will be much faster towards new audiences, because Meta is going to leverage the data collected, kind of a lookalike concept. So Meta will leverage all the purchases and analyze all the audiences like all the behaviors and, you know, pattern and everything of the audiences that just bought your product. So probably gonna be retargeting audience and existing customers, and then it will start pushing more towards new audience that are similar to this, and so the targeting of the campaign will be improved basically, because the ad set already has a lot of data. And now let's go to the concept of existing customers. So here, this is a screenshot from our campaign, right? We don't exclude anyone, and this is what is basically happening here. So we spent 18K in this account, and as you can see, 65% of the budget went towards new audience. Then 31% of the budget we went towards engaged audience. Just want to remind you that engaged audience is still prospecting, so is net new customers at the end of the day, because these people, they never bought for anything from you. And then you have the existing customers, and only 3.4% of the total budget went towards the existing customers. And as you can see here, this is the return on ad spend. So of course it's going to be higher for the existing customers, it's going to be the lowest for the new audience, but overall it will be balanced. And this is how we are basically doing a 4.56 return on the ad spend, because we want to maximize for the overall return on ad spend. Because even if you do some retargeting campaign, let's say email retargeting, SMS and everything, you're probably not going to reach all your existing customers, and so you still want to have some of your campaign like to target your existing customers, especially if you sell different products. So why Meta here is not spending on existing customers? And the answer is short, because we know what we're doing. That basically means that we create ads based on different awareness level. So if you don't do it, you will mess up, because Meta will start pushing towards existing audiences, like engaged audience and existing customers a lot, and everything is not going to work. Now, Meta is basically going to create a full funnel targeting inside your single campaign. So basically, the algorithm is basically what I just mentioned before, that the algorithm knows exactly that it must be a top of funnel to keep the campaign profitable over time, not just today. Okay, and so it creates basically a flywheel of content. You put all the content inside, and Meta will allocate and target different people on different stages based on the messages that you create within the ad creative strategy. So the creative strategy becomes very important, because if you don't know how to do it, if you don't know how to create messages for different audience segments and for different user awareness stages, this probably is not going to work, right? So just make sure to follow this setup, and just make sure to shape and use the proper messages and to create creatives properly for different user awareness stages. Otherwise, this setup here probably is not going to work, and you still need to exclude existing customers. Of course, on the side, what you can do, you can also have specific campaigns that push towards prospecting, fully cold campaign, because maybe you want to have an incremental reach there, because probably you're already spending a lot of money on ads, and so you want to have a campaign that is basically going to increment your reach, new reach, as much as possible. And so you probably need to exclude a lot of different things like engaged audience, website visitors, existing customers and everything, because you want super cold audience, you want to force it. But again, most of the time this is already working by itself on Meta, and we're seeing pretty much good results, even like to 100K spent per month US dollar. So this strategy is what we're doing right now. These are the results, and this is basically it for this video. If you like the video, remember to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.